Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, I guess depending on where you are joining us from. Uh, this is our first, and we are very excited to present our first Global Expansion Hangout on Air. We're going to be focusing on mobile expansion. That is very key to our businesses and very important to y'all. But wanted to introduce us. I'm John Senyard. I'm on Google's Global Expansion team here based in San Francisco.
And I'm Anna Rocha. I'm based in New York City. I also work for the Global Expansion team with John. What we do is we help businesses throughout the Americas internationalizing their businesses. So it's a very exciting job in the era of globalization.
Yeah, and as you can hear from Anna's beautiful accent, she was one of the good ones that we talked into coming to New York City to help our clients come out here. And I think it was actually a dream of yours as a small child to move to New York City.
It was, yeah. The first time I said that, I was 5. I told my mom one day I would live in New York City. I'm originally from Porto, which is the second biggest city in Portugal. So yeah, it's great to have been living in the US the past year and a half.
Well, we're very happy to have you.
Thanks, John.
And this is a live event, so for those joining in, thank you so much. And I know that time zones can be a little tricky sometimes, so if it's a crazy time where you are, we greatly appreciate it. I think this will definitely be worth your while. If for those of you who have coworkers or friends who would be interested in this content but aren't able to join, we will have a recording of this on the AdWords community in the export section. So don't fret, we'll be able to get this to you. During this event, for those who are joining live though, please do ask questions. We'll be pausing momentarily throughout the presentation to give time to make sure that we just don't go right through the questions. So we'll actually be baking that in. And then at the end, we'll have some more time for Q&A. So don't be bashful. You can either fill in the questions in the chat box on YouTube or in the comment section right below here. And then those questions will be fed to us through the laptops.
And if we don't have time to go through all the questions or we don't have the information right now, we will definitely follow up with you after the session.
Yeah, we definitely don't promise to know all the answers, but,
yeah.
but we will try for sure. So to give you guys an idea of what we're going to talk about today, as I mentioned, we're going to be discussing mobile expansion and how that plays into your international export strategy. And when we use the term export, for those that may not be familiar, we know that the word export has a lot of different connotations. We just determine that as anything expanding past your country's domestic borders. So internationalization, globalization, I know there's a lot of terms that get thrown into this. That's what we're referring to. So things that we're going to cover today, take a look at the current status of mobile globally and make the case that mobile is the power player. Look at a framework for mobile marketing. So what are some things that we can all take into account when we're expanding our business and our mobile strategy? And we want to see how we test up and how y'all test up when it comes to your mobile presence globally. And then where we see the business moving forward, where we see mobile moving in the world. And then we'll summarize with some takeaways and open it up to more questions. Hopefully that sounds good.
Let's do it.
Perfect. So you all might be familiar with Maslow's pyramid of needs. For those who aren't familiar, this is a principle that all humanity has certain needs that must be met. And you can see starting at the baseline, we have our psychological needs, we have safety needs, clothing, shelter, food, then belonging needs. And humanity is moving up this pyramid. And I think this has slightly changed, and I'm not sure what Maslow would think nowadays, but I know that for me, the very base of this pyramid is no longer just my psychological needs. I think those moments in my life where I'm really in shock and feel desperate is when I literally don't have battery or Wi-Fi on my mobile device. I know we've probably all been there where your phone dies, and not only are you lost from a lack of maps perspective, you don't know how to actually get home, you've lost your complete connection to your community, you can't text to meet up, you don't know what's going on, you don't know what events are happening. I know back in the day, we used to set a time to meet with someone and a place.
And actually be there.
And you would actually be there, yeah. And if you weren't there, something was wrong and they needed to go find you. Now that is no longer the case. You can just shoot them a text and tell them you're running late. For example, today there was awful rain in San Francisco and traffic was horrendous. So Anna and I were pinging. I was letting her know I was running late.
Yeah.
So no longer are our basic needs just psychological. I think mobile has literally become part of our lives. And it's not just in the US. Globally, we're seeing 4.7 billion mobilely connected devices around the world, which is a massive, massive amount of people. And to give you guys an idea of the scope of that, that's 63% of the entire world's population.
Wow.
Which
It's
is
pretty huge.
yeah, it is crazy. And so when you're talking about reach and scale and where the world is heading, it's got to be on mobile. Mm-hmm. And so just for kicks, if we were to look out to the year 2020, it's estimated that there'll be 5.6 billion connected devices. And that's only in 4 years.
Wow.
It still seems like the future.
3 years. It's 2017
It's
now.
3 years now. It is coming soon. I know it seems like a sci-fi futuristic time, but 2020 is just around the corner.
Yeah.
And so that will be nearly 3/4 of the entire world's population will be on mobile connected devices and will have access to the internet. And hopefully that is opening doors for businesses around the world and providing more opportunities.
Absolutely. People are more and more connected. What we see, though, John, is that some countries are definitely leading this wave of mobile connection. When you look at this map, we can actually see which countries are leading the smartphone revolution, as I like to call it. You can see that in Asia, for example, you have countries like Singapore, South Korea, where 90%, more than 80% of the population have access to a smartphone. That's immense. That's a lot of people. United Arab Emirates, 91%. And here, if you look at this, we're not only talking about emerging markets. Look at Sweden, the Nordic markets. The smartphone penetration is massive. So we're definitely talking about a wave that's being led by emerging markets, but we're also seeing that in mature markets like the Nordics, the UK. Look at the US, 79% of people in the United States have a smartphone. So definitely a trend that we should be taking into consideration when internationalizing our businesses.
And I think a report actually just came out last week that we just crossed the threshold where over half of all mobile connected devices are smartphones.
Wow.
Because I definitely had the perception that in these emerging markets, they're all feature phones, kind of the old school brick or flip phones, but we're actually seeing smartphone penetration growing immensely.
Immensely, yeah.
Which just opens up a huge amount of opportunities.
Yeah, because brands are also, creating cheaper and cheaper smartphones. So, the possibilities for, this new generation to actually, the amount of people that access the internet for the first time on a mobile phone, it's massive. So we definitely need to think about the users of the future, right?
Yeah. And hopefully if you're listening to this and you're not in these markets, this will lower the barrier to entry so you can actually consider advertising and finding revenues and building your business in these other markets. Absolutely.
When we look at global traffic, so in this chart, what we can see is actually Google queries, Google searches, people that go on google.com and do a search. What we see is that at the end of 2015, we actually reached our, what we like to call here, our mobile moment, when the amount of mobile queries actually surpassed the desktop queries. So more people are now searching on mobile phones than they are on desktops. And that obviously also varies by country. As we can see here, we can see that in a country like Germany, for example, desktop queries are still higher than mobile queries. But look at the trend, John. It won't take long before mobile queries are actually surpassing desktop queries in Germany as well. But then look at all the other markets we have here. Brazil, look at the US. The mobile moment in the US was in 2014. And in Japan, it was in 2012. So, here in Google, we actually remember this moment very well. when we switched the desktop-only campaigns to the enhanced campaigns, where you target desktop and mobile phones in the same campaign very seamlessly. So that really marked a period for us, and that really marked the mobile moment here. But it's definitely a trend we're seeing around the world, in every single country. So yeah, just definitely something we need to consider.
Yeah, I definitely remember having a lot of conversations with different partners and clients who historically were solely desktop players. And then as we saw these trends coming, the conversation was always, hey, it's going to go mobile. It's going to go mobile. And then we hit that mobile moment, and it's mobile. Now's the time. Now's the time. And I still think all the growth is going to come from mobile devices.
Absolutely, regardless of the industry. Look, because in some industries, there's still that understanding that, you know, desktop is more important. People will convert on a desktop. People won't buy my product on a mobile phone. But more and more, like in our daily jobs, a big part of our job is actually showing our clients that no, like in your industry, people are actually searching for you on a mobile phone. When they are on the go, even in the office, they are in the office, they go to have lunch, they go to the bathroom, they carry their phones, and they're constantly working. So, you know, it's a trend that it's not going away, and that people should be considering in any industry.
No, it's true.
It's just confirming that Jerry Dishler, one of our vice presidents, said that more Google searches take place on mobile devices than on computers in 10 countries, including the US and Japan. And I'm sure it won't take long for this number of countries to actually be.
Oh, it's going to happen ever. Yeah, and it's and you can see it on the trends on the previous slide there. I mean, mobile growth, even in Brazil, these are where the next billion internet users are going to come from. Markets like China, India, Brazil, where they will actually pass or skip desktop and will be mobile first countries. Like you said, I think in India, a third of the population is under 14 years old, and they'll grow up in a world where the only internet is accessible through mobile devices.
Absolutely. It's crazy.
It's crazy. And like you were saying, I mean, my phone is on me all the time. You know, if you're stuck in traffic with the rain, if you're going to the bathroom, or if you're going to get lunch, I mean, there's no time that I'm not connected to the internet. So no longer do we just go online, as in back in the day, go onto our laptop or onto our desktop and sign on. We actually live online. And so we like to say that people actually check their mobile devices 150 times per day on average.
Wow, this is an amazing number. I'm sure for me it's higher than this. I over-index on this one.
Pushing a strong 300 times easily. But I mean, even if you were to look through just a typical day, my alarm is on my phone. So the first thing I do in the morning is reach for my phone, turn off my alarm. It's full of notifications. And so I'm instantly drawn to those. I go through, I check my email, I check whatever social apps, see what's going on around me, reply to text messages, etc. And then I check it for the weather. I check it for transportation. I use it for transportation. I mean, I'm constantly just utilizing my mobile device, and no longer am I signing on, I'm living online.
Absolutely. So we're now pausing here for 1 or 2 minutes to get your questions. Don't be shy, bring them on. We actually have 2 questions, John.
Perfect.
I'm going to read the first one. So how can brands take advantage of this massive use of mobile devices? It's something that we're definitely going to respond throughout the presentation, I think. Do you want to comment here, 1 or 2 comments?
Yeah, during this presentation, we'll give a framework of how we at Google have looked at this as we are obviously expanding into these different markets and focusing on mobile as well. So hopefully that will shed some light on it. I think we'll definitely address that. If we don't, feel free to ask it in the future as well.
Absolutely, hold us accountable. And then the second question is, how can we properly give mobile value if we don't have proper cross-device tracking? Scale is important. How can we prove its place in the conversion journey to take advantage of its scale? This is a very good question. A very good question. And it's definitely on our minds at Google every single day. And we have entire teams working for this. ADWORDS is in my opinion, and from what I've been seeing and from my experience working with my clients, you have a lot of experience working with apps as well, so I'm sure you can shed even more light here. But the cross-device tracking and our tools, the tools that are available to actually allow us to have proper attribution models for cross-device are getting better and better. And there's a lot of resources online that we can share after the presentation to help you that are watching us finding more about that. John, from your experience working with apps primarily, what do you think is like what do you think are the big things coming in the cross-device tracking world?
Yeah, it definitely is an interesting conversation, and this is something I mean, this conversation has been going on and started when we first saw the mobile moment in the US back in 2014, where we have built up great analytics and attribution tools for desktop historically, and we are accustomed to seeing a specific flow or a user customer journey through that, and we had attribution in place. So we knew exactly the value of a customer who landed on a desktop search ad or a YouTube view, and we could track them through. And then when this mobile functionality came into play, it was a new challenge for us to be able to attribute that. So what is the value of someone who searches for something on their mobile device and then doesn't sign up, doesn't register, doesn't create an account, and then later are driven to the desktop experience and follow through. They purchase the product or they register for an account. And that is something we have definitely, as Anna mentioned, we've been putting a lot of resources behind different attribution models and tools and looking at things like, view through conversions. Yeah. What is the value of someone who watches a video ad and might not convert or might not complete the purchase right there, but the brand awareness is increased. And so the chance of them converting in the future is greater. Or if you're even talking about people who have one desktop, one tablet, one mobile device, and a smart TV, how are you tracking cross-device across multiple devices throughout a week-long time frame or a 30-day time frame? So this is a conversation that we're having. I would say to frame that conversation, one piece that I think sometimes is left out is when you're looking at these attribution models, it's not the same fit for every market. Because just like someone who comes through a mobile device and then later converts on desktop will be slightly different than someone who converts on mobile or who just goes through desktop, that experience for that user would be different in a Germany or in a Brazil or in an India as well.
Absolutely.
So, and something we're going to speak about as well is looking at even the connectivity that those users have in the markets could determine your conversion rates.
Absolutely.
So not to throw another wrench into the question, but something to consider too is, and we'll get more into this, but an American jumping on their smartphone on a 4G network probably looks a little different than someone in India jumping on their smartphone in a 2G world.
Yeah.
Sorry, that wasn't a specific answer.
There are a lot of resources, like I said, that we're going to share for sure. And this is an area that Google has been investing a lot of resources on, a lot of time. So I'm sure even better and bigger things will come in the attribution world for mobile.
Yeah, that's a great question, though. Keep the questions coming.
Yes. So now the framework for mobile marketing that you were just mentioning, to also help understanding how can brands take advantage of the massive use of mobile devices. So what are the 4 main components of a good mobile strategy, either domestically or internationally? In order to have a good mobile marketing strategy, there are 4 things you need to definitely take into consideration. The first one is user behavior, like John was just mentioning. And user behavior is particularly important to take into consideration when you are considering international markets, because user behavior and the consumer journey will be different from market to market, depending on how the user accesses mobile phones, how fast the internet is, what are the habits, is this people used to search or to use a computer, or is this person accessing the internet for the first time on a mobile device? So everything influences. So this is definitely something you need to take into consideration. Then, of course, the user experience. Is the experience a good one when someone is entering our mobile website? Is it as good as it is on the desktop? Is the information easy to find? Does the user need a lot of time to find what he's looking for on our website? And then, of course, the business goals. Is our mobile page aligned with our business goals? If we want to generate leads, is the form visible on a mobile phone? If we are an online store, is it easy for the user to complete the purchase? So definitely important. Today, we're going to focus on the fourth one. We're going to focus on speed. Why are we focusing on this? For two reasons. The first one, it's because it is kind of it's not as difficult to tackle, and it's something that it's not easy as well, but it's something that we can tackle immediately. It's something that we have tools to help you understand how you're doing, how do you stack up. We have tools to help you understand what you need to fix in order to get this ready. And then the second reason, John, is 40%, our studies show that 40% of people abandon a website that takes more than 3 seconds to load. Think about this, it's just 3 seconds. So John, it doesn't really matter if your website matches your business goals, if the user experience is actually good after the person is actually on the website. If your website is not fast enough, you won't have users on your website.
That's true. I guess that answers the previous question about attribution.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
no one's staying on the mobile site, we really don't have to worry about attribution.
Exactly, that makes everything much more difficult.
Yeah.
So this number, this 40%, is really the reason why we decided to focus on the speed component of the framework today.
That's crazy. And just to give you guys some very practical examples of how speed can impact your business. And these are, feel free to tell these stories or use these to push mobile speed as a priority for your business. So for example, Mozilla, they increased the landing page speed on mobile devices of their website by 2.2 seconds. So a moment, a very, very small moment. But that 2.2 second increase in load time drove 15.4% increase in Firefox downloads. And that equates out to 10 million additional downloads per year.
Wow.
We're talking 2.2 seconds. So like Anna was mentioning, this is low-hanging fruit. If you could just increase the load time of websites on your mobile device, you could see a massive, massive change for your business.
Absolutely.
Another example, Walmart, that we're all familiar with, increased their mobile load time by 1 second. They saw a 2% increase in conversion rate.
Wow.
Which is huge. And that, I mean, knowing the Walmart business, that equates out to millions of dollars in top-line revenues. And if you take into account Black Friday, seasonalities, Christmas sales, 1 second increase on mobile devices.
That's impressive.
It's huge.
It's a lot of sales.
And I'm sure they're asking the attribution questions as well. But this is something that it's low-hanging fruit. It's very tangible. And then you can actually measure the impact of that after the fact.
Easily, yeah. But John, because we're here to talk about international markets, every market is different. And so when we talk about speed, we definitely need to talk about what's the connection speed of our users. Is it the same? If we're working on our mobile website in the US, is that speed the same as, for example, South Korea? No, it's very different. So
it's true.
We can see that in South Korea, the average internet connection speed in Q3 last year was actually the fastest one. South Korea is the number one.
Very, very cool.
And I think when I look at all these markets, I'm not that surprised by the top 10, but there are a couple of countries here by which I'm very surprised. Is there anyone that surprises you, John, on this list?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely see kind of the more advanced APAC markets coming up here, your Scandinavian markets. I was surprised by Latvia, to be totally honest, coming in at number 10 in Q3 of 16.9 megabits per second. And I know Latvia has done a huge amount of work in their capital Riga to actually bring in businesses and grow a thriving startup community by solely increasing their connectivity speeds. And so this is something
that helps explain.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't see a market on these top 12 lists, that means they are actually lower speeds than the US. And so when you're having this conversation with your mobile developers or your website-based team, we want to make sure that they are aware that they're not just building one website that will act the same when it's launched globally. They might need to tweak the website or tweak the strategy because different nations and different countries will have different connectivity speeds. And as we saw in the previous stories, if you're losing a second or losing 2 seconds on your load time, that could greatly negatively impact your business in another market. We don't want that to be a barrier or an issue.
Exactly. And don't forget that one user that goes on the website and it doesn't load in 3 seconds, a user that is gone is very difficult to get back. Yeah. Because your competitors are out there and they're also paying attention to the speed connection. So
hopefully they're not quicker. Any questions? We're going to open it up for any questions coming in live from anyone joining.
We actually have a question, John, about the mobile speed. How should we adjust our mobile strategy based on the country's mobile speed? That's a very good question. It's a little bit technical.
It is a good question. I would say there's a ton of resources on our community and on Think with Google about how to do this. Simple things that I've seen that worked well in the past, things that take a long time to load, are images or any videos or any animations or interactive, kind of higher level multimedia. And it might be worthwhile. That might work perfectly well in the US if you have a quick load time. But if you're launching your website in India, for example, it might be worthwhile to remove some of those, which it does decrease the full experience. But if someone's on a 2G network, they're not going to get that experience anyways. And they're going to have to wait 30, 40 seconds for it to load. So you do have to weigh the pros and cons and the benefits of that. We also have a few exciting new strategies when it comes to ways that you can partner with Google to actually help your load times, looking at some of our options, and more than happy to send that information out.
Great. And we're actually showing one of the tools that Google has that will help tackling this challenge for sure.
Yeah, because I think the first question is, how do we stack up? So how do you even know if in India your load times are slower than they could be? Or how could you look at the world globally and say, all right, what markets are we maybe losing customers or losing possible revenues because of mobile load times? So we wanted to make sure that we address that first to set a direction so that you can then tackle the next questions. So our Think with Google team has actually come out with a website where you can literally go in and test the mobile landing speed in different geographies or of different websites. And I thought, maybe the best way to showcase this is to literally just show it. So we're going to jump over here. And here, just to play fair, we will test thinkwithgoogle.com, how it loads here. And then we'll test one of our localized experiences in Portuguese and see how they stack up. And so if you go to Think with Google, and this is called Test My Site. So the URL is testmysite.thinkwithgoogle.com. And then here, I've literally just typed in the website, thinkwithgoogle.com. Test now. And we recognize at Google, it's difficult to have a global mobile strategy, and we're not perfect.
Difficult. Yeah.
And we'll see how this comes out. So
there you go.
Mobile friendliness, 99 out of 100. Very proud. Mobile speed, 52 out of 100. So this is something that even we are trying to tackle. Desktop speed, 65 out of 100. And just for kicks, we ran this with our Portuguese localized version. And as you can see, we have much lower mobile speeds here. So 46 out of 100 coming from the Portuguese side of things, 57 out of 100. So this is, we don't want to come to you saying we have all the answers and we know exactly what you can do. We're working through this, and we'd like to think we've put a lot of thought into it and have many, many smarter people than us working on this. But this is a great place to start to see what markets you could see huge improvements on, to see where you currently stand.
Absolutely. And then if you scroll down the page, the tool will actually give you recommendations and more insights into what could help you improve the speed, the friendliness of your page. So definitely an interesting tool to try.
Mm-hmm. So check it out.
Yeah, check it out, definitely. There is another tool. If we go back to our presentation, we have a screenshot. We won't be demoing this one, but we definitely wanted to put it here. It's called Web Page Test. It's free. It's available for all of you out there. And this is, the idea is the same. It's more complex. It's for more advanced advertisers, web designers that have different domains for different markets, that are advertising different markets. You can actually test the website speed and the website performance, the mobile website performance in different browsers, different network bandwidths, different countries, different cities. So definitely something worth trying for more advanced users out there. It's easy. It looks complex, but it's very easy to use, and it definitely gives you a lot of options of different scenarios where your website would be performing.
Yeah, I would say a fun place to start is always just testing 2G networks in any country. Just a fun tip there.
Definitely. So now it's your turn. We would love for all of you out there to, go ahead and test your websites on testmysite.thinkwithgoogle.com and the web page test tool. And if you have any questions, as usual, we're waiting for them. Bring them on. If you don't have questions now, you can also just type in the questions afterwards. We'll make sure to get back to you. We'll make sure to have someone actually replying to your questions if you're watching the recorded version of the video. So just feel free to ask questions whenever you have them. Great. So everyone tested their websites. I hope there's a lot of...
Yeah, hopefully nothing too shocking. I know it's a humbling experience, as it was for us.
Yes.
But the whole purpose is not to scare or intimidate. It's really to see where are the next countries that do have a lot of opportunity. And if we could just increase the mobile landing page speed, that would open up, hopefully, a ton of revenue for y'all and growth in your businesses.
Absolutely. So, John, you want to talk about what the future looks like? This is exciting. I like this part.
So this is, and I love using this example. I'm one player who's done a phenomenal job when it comes to best practices, not only just in actual landing page speed. What they've done is they've created a fantastic mobile website experience holistically. And the best part of this is that they actually launched it and started in India, which is one of the toughest mobile speed connectivity markets out there. It's a great market for Americas-based clients who are traditionally maybe English speaking because English is the predominant language. But a lot of my clients, a lot of my partners do find difficulties when it comes to connectivity speed. There's a lot of people who are living in India and using just Wi-Fi for their devices. And so you don't always get that always on living with their mobile phones, living with connectivity. So you do have to kind of tweak your strategy for them. But this example, Flipkart, has done a phenomenal job of actually building out this experience primarily for the Indian market, but have been able to expand past those borders. And if you're not familiar with Flipkart, it is an e-commerce website. So think of an Amazon or a Wish.com, where you can go on, purchase products. But the beauty of Flipkart is they came out with a progressive web app called Flipkart Lite. If you're not familiar with the idea of PWAs or progressive web apps, it's basically taking all of the benefits of the app experience. So things like, it's on your homepage, on your mobile device. There's maybe some different offerings that you can connect to while offline. So you don't always have to have a mobile connection. Push notifications. So if the item you're looking for last week went on sale this week, they could actually alert the user to drive them back into the experience to purchase the product. And they've taken all of these benefits from an app and actually baked them into their mobile site. It's crazy fast loading. You can actually load it on Wi-Fi. And then if you're, for example, if you're shopping for a Canon camera, you could load all the Canon cameras. That's a tongue twister. While on Wi-Fi, and then when you leave your house and you don't have mobile service, you can actually go back in to the website and see those same categories, and you can read reviews, read up on the product, and do your research, and then go back when you're connected to Wi-Fi and actually purchase the product. Absolutely phenomenal. And through this experience of taking their website and creating Flipkart Lite, the PWA, they saw 3x increase in engagement time.
Wow.
Which is phenomenal. So if you can think of with your business specifically, and every business is different, but if you were able to 3x the amount of time that users spent on your mobile site, you can imagine the uptick in the revenues and the experience and the brand awareness, and it would be phenomenal. Not only were they able to 3x the time on site, they actually saw an additional or an increase of 70% higher conversions from users that arrived via the home screen icon as compared to those that went through the website. And so you can imagine, if you may not have an app, and I don't believe that everyone needs an app necessarily, but if you just have a desktop or a landing page that people are going into a Chrome browser and then typing in, thinkwithgoogle.com or flipkart.com, they saw a 70% increase in conversion rate by users who went through the homepage icon. So think of it like an app icon that directed them to the mobile site. Just that simple step made a huge impact for them. Not only that, but they saw an increase of 40% visitors week over week. And this is not surprising given that people could connect now on the go, even without mobile connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just increasing the availability of the website drastically helped their business.
Yeah, and I'm sure it was transformative for their business.
Huge.
Absolutely.
And
users love it.
Users love it. And so the point of this is not saying that everyone is going to be able to have the design team and the resources to build out this beautiful experience. But this is a great example of a best-in-class and best practice using team who focused on mobile and actually went into a market that was mobile first and were able to succeed in that market. So it is possible to do.
It is possible. It's definitely.
So it can be a daunting task, but hopefully, that we're here to partner with you on this.
Yes.
And we're helping to build products. We actually worked closely with this team to enable them to do this. But
yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully that's helpful.
And it's also a good example of the impact that mobile can have on a business. So it's very impressive. So again, just a reminder of the framework. Today we focused on speed. Hopefully we will be able to tackle the other 3 points on another occasion. Again, just a reminder for questions. We don't have any questions at the moment, John. Oh, actually we do. Where can I learn more about the Flipkart strategy? Oh, see, people interested. We actually have a case study available online, and we will definitely post a link after your question. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the question.
Great question.
So we're almost at the end of our presentation, and I just wanted to leave you all with the main takeaways of everything that we discussed today. So the first one is mobile is an essential part of any strategy. If we're talking about internationalization strategy, it definitely has to be there. Then the second one is always think user first. We have to think user first when we think about desktop, but when we think about mobile site and apps, even more because of the different speeds and everything that we discussed today. And then the last one is localization. Internationalization is way beyond just language translation, currency, payment methods. And it's also something that John and I and our team, we discuss this a lot with the teams internally and with the clients we work with and our partners, that when we talk about localization, it's way beyond that. It involves a lot of things. And the mobile site speed and app, if your business has an app, is definitely and has to be part of that strategy. So hopefully these were 3 messages that we managed to convey today and that we hope were useful for you.
And, any last final questions? And if they're not, please stay tuned. Hopefully to more Hangouts and Air, and we have a ton of great information on the AdWords community, not even solely about internationalization, but about the product, about advertising, marketing strategies, attribution, conversion tracking. So please spend some time, peruse the information, watch the videos, read the blogs, read the articles, and we'll be in touch in the future with more information.
We'll be here to help you taking your businesses to international markets. See you soon.
Yeah, so again, good morning, good evening, good night.